Hi, dear viewers. We've got an amazing person on the show today in the name of Mark James, who is here to tell us about the Auto Silks Limited. It's a pleasure to have James on the show today. How are you doing, James?
It's Mark, and I'm good. Thanks. Thank you for inviting me on and to talk to you, and obviously to talk to someone and let your guests know what I do.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm excited to be having this conversation. Now, first to say, it's nice to have you on the show. And for
Thank you.
those who haven't heard about Auto 6 Limited, can you briefly tell us what your organization is all about? Can you give us a little bit of background about your organization?
Yeah, sure. Um, Author sales. Basically, what we do is we help authors, mostly self-published, but also some traditionally published authors,
Yeah.
make profitable sales from running Amazon ads. I've been in online advertising since 1997. So
Wow.
over those years, yeah, I've learned a thing or two about what works and what doesn't. And obviously in COVID, all my international flying around the world, leaving a big carbon footprint came to an end, which was a good thing probably. But from my perspective, I needed to find something to do. So I understand data and how you can use it and how you manipulate it. My previous clients were Hachette and Penguin and Random House and people like that because I used to help them with their anti-piracy solutions. So I understand the value of data and what you can do with it. And having come from an online advertising background, my wife had a book. She's a business coach, and she had a book that was
Oh,
kind of floundering. So she said, "Well, you understand this data stuff. Go in and have a look and see if you can help it." And within a couple of weeks, she was in the top international sales and marketing booksellers group. So, it worked well with her. A couple of people, a couple of her friends came to me and said, "Mark, can you do the same thing?" And that's where the company started, literally right in the middle of COVID in 2020.
yeah, that's amazing to know, actually. I love the sound of that. Now, could you tell us why it is necessary? Why should I advertise my books on Amazon? Why is it necessary? What's the
Yeah,
importance attached to this?
sure. Um, the simple fact is Amazon is the biggest bookstore in the world.
Absolutely.
It's 350 million customers. There's probably more than that, but that's what they reported a couple of years ago, I think
Wow.
2021. That's a lot of people. They don't obviously all buy books, but the other side of Amazon is the fact that they publish between 6 and 7,000 new books every day
Okay.
just in the US. So
Wow.
yeah, you can go on there and you can rely on reviews and you can rely on these other things to try and push a book, but there's only a couple of ways that you'll kind of consistently be in front of the right kind of customers, and that is by using advertising, getting the data from that advertising, and using that to make yourself profitable. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it's very true that, quite a lot of books are published on daily basis on Amazon. Now, I also love to ask you, does KDP Select have any advantages for authors? Would you love to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Um, KDP does for certain genres. And it changes. So throughout the year, most sales, if you look at a single book or you look at a series of books, it has this kind of
Mm,
sine wave over the
mm,
months. What you're trying to do is make sure that your costs are always lower than the money you're making. Now, with the advertising, you only see a gross amount. You don't see the amount after the revenue shares have been taken. If you're using print on demand, for example, there's another slice that goes to Amazon, plus the clicks that came through to the book sale. They also go to Amazon. So it's about really managing yourself and setting yourself up properly so that you don't have unrealistic expectations to begin with. You will not be a bestseller out the gate unless you have somebody very famous who decides to do a TikTok video for you. That kind of thing, can accelerate the sales. But if you just sit there and you're sort of doing all the usual stuff through the different channels that apply, if you're in certain genres, KDP Select is a must. And I say that
mm.
because it means all your competitors are in there. And it also means the large publishers, the big traditional publishers, when they bring an author out, they will also sometimes not use KDP Select because they want to take advantage of all those other platforms. But for most traditional publishers, they'll go with all the other platforms and all the other hardcover and paperback sales, get you into bookshops, get you into
Yeah,
Waterstones, whatever. But a lot of them, they know that if they go into KDP Select as an exclusive, as Amazon insists it is for the ebook, you have to do that in certain genres because otherwise you don't get a look in. And also a lot of the money that people make, particularly my authors who have several books, it comes from the Kemp reads. It comes from the Kindle growing and growing and growing each month. And that, for many of them, is what actually brings them profitability on book 2, book 3, book 4, etc., etc.
Yeah. And when it comes to writing is fantastic. Having a book out there, it's awesome. Well, the issue is how to market it, the issue. And that's the most beautiful part of writing. To have it out there and to get your book in the hands of people that are interested in it, it's much more important and necessary. Now, what else do you think authors can do to improve their visibility on Amazon?
Number one, people can think that they can do that's completely free is actually go onto Goodreads. Now, a lot of people don't realize Goodreads is owned by Amazon. Amazon taps Goodreads for data at every 2 or 3 minutes, 24 hours a day.
Wow.
That's about 20% of the data that Amazon uses to decide whether to show a book or not to a particular customer. And what actually Amazon's very good at doing is taking what is on average in the marketing world 12 impressions before somebody buys. Amazon's got that down to 6. So even if they see the ad and they actually click on something else the next time around, or the third time they see the ad, they might click on it. 4th time, 5th time, they might actually click on it and go, I remember that, I quite liked it, I'll go and buy it. So it's about having a kind of presence, and it depends on the tactics that people want to deploy. Because if you're somebody who needs lots of reviews, then you slash the price and you run a campaign on Amazon. But the main thing you do is you talk about it on other platforms. And Goodreads is the main one to get discussed on. Make sure you're constantly reviewing other people's books. Make sure you're constantly on there every week. I don't say you have to be on there for long, but you need to touch Goodreads about once a week. And the system picks up on this, and it automatically brings up your relevance to the algorithm inside Amazon. And if you're in a discussion, particularly a heated discussion, and you don't get any of those on Amazon because the platform doesn't allow for it, that's what Amazon likes, because then it sees a particular author being talked about, or it sees a particular author being discussed. Bit of controversy is even better. And obviously that, again, bumps up the interest to Amazon, because they know people are interested outside of the data they have in Amazon about that author or about that particular book or subject. So Goodreads, Goodreads, claim your author page on Goodreads, get set up on there, keep using it is probably the best tip, I would say. That's a free one.
That's an amazing information. Thanks so much for sharing. That's lovely to know. Very helpful as well. Now, what do you think authors should look out for when choosing who to work with, if considering using a professional?
It's a minefield, and I understand that, because I do speak to authors fairly regularly who have either been traditionally published and feel they were let down because the traditional publisher did no marketing whatsoever after those initial couple of weeks. I've got others that are doing, they hear about who are doing self-publishing for other authors, and they charge way too much money. The book goes out, it still has errors in it, things like that, which your reviews will show, because if you have grammatical errors in your work, the reviews will tell you. And that's another reason that Goodreads is good, because you start to see some of that stuff, so you can, pick up on people's thoughts.
It's great to know. Thanks for shedding more light on that as well. I'd also love to ask you, Mark, how important are organic listings on Amazon? Would you love to talk about that?
Sure. Organic listings are a bit of a black box, because obviously it's something that Amazon has full control over, and you can't influence it except by having sales. You have Kemp reads, you have sales going through. Just doesn't matter whether you're highly profitable or not profitable. If you're making those sales, that raises you on the organic listings. And I have some clients who are seasonal, i.e. they sell nothing in the winter, or they sell nothing in the particular, like the summer holiday period. Often they see their sales drop off. And so we'll pause their service for 3 months and just ride on the organic listings. But these are people I've been working with for a year, 2 years. So we know that their organic listings are about as high as they can possibly be because of the volume of sales we're doing from advertising. But that's the main thing that we can tell, as far as we can tell Amazon's black box. That's the main influence. You sell more, it increases and you obviously got good reviews and all the other things that are relevant as well. Then that massively can improve your organics, as well as stuff that you do on Goodreads. Maybe you're running, a discussion forum on Facebook, or you're running a channel like you are, something like that can also make a difference.
Yeah, that's very amazing to know. Thanks for shedding more light on that as well. Now, take for instance, if I am running my own Amazon ad, what's the single most important thing to do, and how is that for starters? Would you love to talk about that?
Sure. The main thing is don't bid at what Amazon suggests you bid, because you'll lose money, and you'll lose quite a lot of money if you don't put caps. So there's two things to it. The first one is don't bid what Amazon tells you to. Bid below, let it run for a couple of weeks, and then if you want to kind of bring the bids up because you're maybe not getting enough impressions, you have to give it time. And as I said, the second thing beyond that is probably just making sure that you've got your author central set up properly. Nice picture, nice bio, all of that kind of stuff helps
Hmm.
um, with how Amazon views you. So the main thing, the main thing I'd say is don't bid to their bids, and put a cap on what you spend, and either put that cap in your head or put the cap into the system. Don't go beyond it in any 1 month.
Hmm. That's amazing to know. I love your take on that. Now, Mark, would you be comfortable to discuss the payment plans? Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. My pricing is very transparent because the work I do is pretty much the same for most authors, unless we're promoting several books or they're looking at a different sort of tactics. So for fiction authors, I charge £895, and that covers the whole first 3 months of service. Create the ads, run the ads, manage them, follow the data to work out what to turn off and what to turn up. And then that way you can work out, is there campaigns here that I can scale? Every time I spend another £10 a month, I see another 20 sales or something like that. And then you
Mm,
scale those campaigns, and the things that are costing you money that you're not getting sales for, you turn off. But the service I run for the 3 months is basically covering that whole period. And then after that, most of my clients stay with me, but we've turned off so much extra wastage that I have fewer campaigns
mm.
to manage, and therefore I can charge a more appropriate monthly fee that allows me to just go in there and keep optimizing them on a sort of once a week basis, rather than every 2 or 3 days, which is what I do in those first 3 months.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now you mentioned fiction. Is there any other
Mm.
different prices for non-fiction or poetry, stuff like that?
Well, non-fiction, I put poetry into the fiction heading, and some others I do as well, because the things that are in the non-fiction genre can, stem wildly from somebody's memoirs and a biography,
Yeah.
right up to where a lot of my clients sit, where they are consultants or they're specialists in a particular
Mm,
area, and they're trying to drive traffic to another business. They're trying to drive people, what I call, in the top of the funnel. And so they'll use a book to do that. This is my expertise. This is my credibility. If you want
mm.
me hands on, come and see my website, come and see my practice, whatever it happens to be. And I do have quite a few doctors and consultants who work in that way. Pricing for that varies, but it's usually a little bit more because there's a bit more strategy involved. It's not just about making sure you're getting profitable sales. It's also about making sure that you've got the reach and your brand is hitting the right people. So
Absolutely.
a lot of the guys I work with in the non-fiction space, if they're trying to funnel people into their business, they'll choose one country or another. And usually in English speaking, they'll go with the US or they'll go with the UK, depending on their location. If there's somebody who sells something and they are a service that can provide it online, then they're
Mm.
actually interested in being in as many countries as they can. And what they're looking for there is an income band. Doesn't matter what they speak, language wise, it's an income band of individual that they're looking to entice. But it's usually based on the tactics involved.
I love your take on that. Thank you so much for talking more
Okay.
about this. Now, is there genre specific that you do, or you're open to promoting books of every genre?
It's a good question. I actually only ever promote two authors in a single genre, because otherwise they start to compete for the same keywords. And I saw this a couple of years ago where I had a couple of people who were literally in exactly the same subgenre. The main high level genres, it's not so much of an issue. But when you start to get into subgenres, or you start to get into what I call hyper niche, where there is
Mm.
only one area, a niche genre that you really do fit in that situation, I can only run with one. But on average, most subgenres and genres are run with two authors, and that way they don't compete against each other in that particular space. But I can work with
Yeah,
all genres only on Amazon. I don't work with any other platform because that's the one I know.
Yeah, that's great to know. That's quite amazing to know. Now, Mark, in case we have some interested authors who would love to reach out to you, how can we contact you?
Easiest way, well, I'm on Instagram, but I don't go on there a lot because I'm it's a time suck, as I call it, from doing actual work. But the best way is through the website, authorsales.co.uk, and you can send me an email on there. But I'm also obviously on Facebook, etc., etc. So any of the usual platforms that people talk about, you can reach me. But the email is just mark@authorsales.co.uk.
Yeah, and I left a link to the website where interested authors can reach out to Mark directly in the description part of this interview. So thank you so much, Mark, for talking about
Pleasure.
Auto Sales Limited. It's such a pleasure having this conversation with you and knowing
Thank you for
more about
inviting
your
me.
company and what you do.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on, and I'll let you know if someone gets in touch.
Yeah, my pleasure as well.